afternoon, good morning, and good day. Not necessarily in that order. It's your boy, Big Brangus Dangus Karangus, aka Large Buffethan himself. But most people know me as Big Buppo. Your new democratically elected president of casual Elden Ring gaming. And today on my not necessarily so casual build, yeah, I made the Potentate. I made the Pot Lord, and the best part of this build is putting people to sleep just like that. It makes me laugh every time I see it. And yeah, it does damage. It does some crazy damage. Each pot, or at least not each pot, but each ritual pot that I throw, so the Giant's Flame ones, does about 600 points of damage without buffs. Now, if you can land an oil pot on someone, or, you know, land the oil pot, then get them to go Betty by time with the sleep pot, you can deal some crazy damage. And you can get someone to sleep with one, max 2 pots. So, it's a crazy build. Also, the lava pots there, really good for, like, creating zones, essentially, or, like, just zone control. So, it's solid. It's pretty excellent. This is genuinely one of my favorite builds that I ran. And, I have a lot of fun with it. And, you know, you can ask yourself the question, like, are consumables viable? Well, the answer is, yes, absolutely. In fact, you can make an entire build around consumables. And, yeah, part of the inspiration was from the bow build, where I was like, oh, the perfume bottles actually do decent damage. What about the pots? Do they do damage? And after doing some research on YouTube, there was quite a few YouTubers making pot builds. There's this one guy, God, I forget the name of the channel. I'll have to look it up and post it later in the comments if you guys ask about it. But yeah, his whole theme was like Wario, and also has a background playing Super Smash Bros. So I felt like I really vibed with this French dude. And yeah, he is like the expert on pot builds, so I'll probably put his channel link in the description or something, or maybe put it down in the comment sections. I'm not sure, but incredibly fun build. Now, there are some pros and there are some cons to this build, and the pros are fun, absolutely ridiculous. It's got decent poise. It's got decent damage. It's technically a faith build, but you don't really need to be casting any spells. I mean, I have incantations in my queue there. But, you know, not the main damage dealers of the build, but you can have some really strong damage dealing spells. It's just, I went more to be able to have the heavy armor because it looks funny, rather than having, like, you know, points in endurance, rather than having points in mind. Because throwing a pot does not cost very much focus points to do. So that's the thing. That's another pro. You don't need that many focus points to be able to throw all the pots. Now, if you do plan on throwing every pot in your inventory and you keep your base focus points of the build, chances are you will actually run out of mana before you run out of pots. And I mean, if you run out of pots, honestly, like, you just have to drink more goo, and, you know, you just gotta carry a few flasks on you. Nothing crazy about that, let's be honest. Like, all you really need is 2. In invasions, for example, and you'll be good to go. And in duels, I mean, carry as many as you want. It's a duel. You shouldn't be healing mid-duel anyways. You shouldn't be drinking the goo. And if you do, I'd say you're a fool. But, yeah, no. It's a good build. It's a good build. It's a lot of fun. And craziest part of the build, or one of my favorite things of the build, is also the fact that, like, the coated sword, really good. Does solid damage. So if you come into a scenario where they get close and you actually have to throw hands and fight back, you'll be able to do it because you have a high damage dealing weapon. Now, if they have high, you know, faith defense, then it kind of nerfs the build a little bit, but realistically, you know, not that many people are going to be running that. And, oh man, I really like this fight. My man over here came in with my favorite katana in the game, as most of you already know. And, yeah, this was a bit of a challenging fight, but, regardless, consumables are good. Now the cons. The cons are, well, this might actually be a pro if, you guys are really good at, FPS games and free aiming. but you get more out of the build if you free aim your pots rather than if you you know, auto aim with the lock-on system. And when it comes to free aiming as well, it's not easy. It's not easy. You should be throwing where your opponent is going to roll as opposed to where your opponent is. Obviously, you know, it's just, you know, practically basics of PvP at this point. It's the same principles of roll catching. But, yeah, the free aiming system is technically not where your camera is pointing, but where your character is facing forwards. So before you throw a pot, as you saw I kind of did there in that moment, you want to walk a few steps forwards to make sure that your character's body is aligned where the camera is aiming. Because if not, you saw there in that throw where I had the camera turn, but I didn't switch the direction of the throw. I was just trying to maybe predict where it was going to be, but like I am terrible. I am terrible at first-person shooters. So if you're terrible at aiming with a joystick in FPS games, as bad as I am, this might actually not be the build for you. And that's the thing. This isn't the build for me, and yet I am having so much fun with it. It is so good. And he can still do crazy damage. And if I would have been able to get that pot out on time, that probably would have finished the fight, because it deals 600 damage at least. Now, you may be asking yourself, yeah, but Buppo, what patch is this? And I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't patch 1.07. It's not. But I did some damage testing off stream, and I didn't get any of the footage because I figured, like, I just want to see if this video is still valid, essentially. And it is. They didn't really touch consumables. I'd say maybe they nerfed the damage a tiny bit, but it also could have just been raining during the fights. So, like, I wasn't paying much attention to the weather more than I was paying attention to using the items that I had. Also, I really felt like that should have hit. Yeah, this guy's just trying to time me out with the rot boluses and the poison bolus. Sorry, with the rotten poison. I had to eat my boluses to counter that. And yeah, it's you know, this is a bit of a battle of what's the word? Battle of attrition? Let's say battle of attrition. And yeah, that's the thing. We can still pull the victory. We can still get the W, because this build is absolutely nutty. I mean, Sword and Board in Elden Ring isn't bad. They actually made it good compared to the other Souls games, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with any of this, obviously. But yeah, so that's one of the cons. Free aiming is hard, and if you're bad at shooters, you might be bad with this build. Another one of the cons is, honestly, when it comes to, you know, variety of the build, there's not going to be that many weapons that purely scale off of faith. And if you want to have heavier armor that'll, you know, be able to tank a little bit of poise, right? They have that kind of poise to be able to tank hits from, like, smaller weapons or even larger weapons, so you can get that pot off, like the sleep pot, for example. You're going to have to invest more points in endurance than anything else. So you're going to have maybe 40 to 60 faith, and the rest is going to be poured pretty much into endurance and HP. So there, yeah, the build has a lot of durability and, you know, a lot of staying power, but your damage is mainly going to be based off of your consumables and the very limited, you know, faith damage options and weapons that you have. So long swords, daggers, and maybe a few great swords, some light spears are going to be like your main go-tos when it comes to variety of weapons, which isn't much. There are some low stat investment weapons that go a long way. One of the halberds, for example, the Banished Knight halberd, it's like 14-14, right? Dex and strength, and then the rest, that's not too big of a stat investment, but honestly, the least you have to put into the other stats, the better this build becomes if you're going to have that focus on consumables. Like the pots, more specifically. But the build's not inviolable. The build's not, you know, unstoppable. Obviously, here you can see, not going to win every fight, but it's still a surprisingly strong build. That's what really caught me off guard, is how actually viable it was, how good it actually was, how much of my damage was actually being done by the consumables. And they weren't just like little supporting items, really. No, they are what made the build. Like, the consumables are the spells of this build, right? Like, you know, you've got your incantation builds, you've got your spell casting builds, right? And their spells are what make the build, right? Like the mage builds is what they are. But this almost feels like its own category, like it's its own kind of thing. Like, You got mages, you got melee, and then you got consumable builds that can pretty much run almost any build, because there is a pot that does damage that scales with practically everything in the game, right? You got the magic pots that can deal crazy damage, just like the faith pots that I'm currently using that deal crazy damage, and they're the easiest to farm craftable materials for, which brings us to the next con. And then that's why I was kind of bringing this up, is that as much as there are options for everything, not everything is easy to craft, and the easiest thing to craft is what I'm throwing right here, right now. These Giant's Flame Pots. They're good. They deal crazy damage, and you only need 2 flowers to craft them, right? Like 2 of those Fire Bloom flowers or whatever they're called. And the Volcano Pots, same thing. You only need 2 volcanic rocks. That's it. But all of the other pots, like the Swarm Pot Fly pots or whatever, the bleed ones, essentially, it takes a lot more, like, harder to find crafting material. So the Rot Pots, I mean, that's a limited crafting material. The Sleep Pots, same thing. So if you can get your hands on those crafting materials, have a friend drop them for you, duplicate them for you. You know, if you're playing on PC, you got your other methods as well. Like, because who's going to craft? That's the biggest con in Elden Ring. Who the hell is going to take their time to craft? And I mean, you know, a lot of you might be thinking, yeah, Buppo, but like, why not just play through the game? It's like, okay, yeah, that's your prerogative. If you want to play through the game 10, 20 times to have like this crazy amount of craftable material or these crazy amounts of Ashes of War and all that, you can. But, you know, when are you ever going to do PvP if you're just replaying the game over and over and over again? You're in your new game plus 20 cycle. And, like, where's the challenge anymore? Where's the fun anymore? I'm not that kind of player. That player isn't me. So as much as I love this build, I'm not going to be able to play this build for very long because I only have that limited amount of crafting material. And I don't feel like going through all the other methods to get them because they're time consuming. And that's the thing. What I don't have is time. I want to play this game as much as possible and experience the best of it as quick as possible. I've beaten the game multiple times now, and what I want now is PvP. And I could take 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours per build, or, you know, I can set them up the way I do and take maybe an hour to set a build up, try it out, and see if I like it. And, you know, the series where we're going to be replaying through the game is my new one. If you guys haven't seen the episode yet, Recusant Revelries, the Recussi Revelries, alright? That little series right there. It's a lot like Duelist Diaries, but it's going to be based on invasions, and I gave it a little twist. It's a series that is also a challenge run, so all the runes that I get from invasions are the runes that I can use to level up, but that's it. That's all I can use to level up. Also, I can't believe I missed that. That broke my heart. But that's okay. We got plenty other consumables where that's from. Also, man, if I was just a little better at aiming, I would have hit those 2 pots. Fight would have been over. Oh no. Oh no. How's this one going to play out? How's it going to go? And your boy Buppo clutches the victory. Let's go. Let's go. How much HP did we have? How much HP did we have? Let's check. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wild. But yeah, going back to the cons. So, the first con is hard to aim. Second con is too many craftables to do, or that's actually the third con. But the second con, or let's call it the third con now, was not that much weapon variety in the build. But the pros are, you know, does crazy damage, surprisingly, so it's actually viable. And super fun build. Those are just 2 major pros. I feel like they outweigh the cons. And I guess the third pro is your opponents don't expect it. I feel like a lot of people that I fought did not know what to expect. Just to have this variety of pots available. Like, yeah, that's the roll catch that I'm talking about. People who are good at shooters, who are good at free aiming, they are going to have a blast with this build because they'll be able to land that consistently every time. Well, that was a free aim. That was just a little over the top there. But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just the fun factor of this build. And it's like, okay, he can't stand there and cast spells anymore, which allows me to approach him. That hurt, though. That made me sad. That was a lot of damage. But yeah, you're basically controlling the battlefield with all your pods. You're controlling the battlefield with these consumables. And yeah, there's something special about it. I don't know what it is. I don't know how else to say it, but it's fun. Also, I did not expect him to actually hit me with the R1 there. I should have. He was quick-stepping right at me, but it is what it is. But yeah, anyways, new series, Recusant Revelries. Please check it out. I'm going to be updating. It's going to be a weekly series where I'm going to update it with the new invasions that I do every time. And like I said, the twist, the challenge run to it, or maybe I didn't mention it earlier, but I'm mentioning it now. The twist to that challenge run is that I can only use souls that I gain, or the runes that I gain, from the invasions. I don't have to win the invasion necessarily. I can always go back and pick up those runes. But if I died and I accidentally get runes in my world along the way, I have to sacrifice them. So that's another fun little caveat. It's kind of like Pokemon Nuzlocke challenges in a way. Like, it's a little extra set of rules, a little extra set of difficulty. But more in a Souls way, because it's not like I have multiple characters that, like, if I lose them forever kind of thing. Like, it's, you know, it's not exactly like that. But it's the idea that, like, I will only gain runes through slaughter. And if you guys are wondering what kind of build it is going to be a arcane spellcaster build. Currently, when it comes to spellcasting, it's low level right now, so I don't have many options. I don't have many things to go with, but it'll build up. It'll build up. You guys will see. You'll watch the series. You'll see. I don't want to spoil too much. I feel like I've already spoiled a lot already. What you guys came to see here is this pot build and how much crazy damage it does. Yeah, I was just so satisfied with this build. I had so much fun playing it. I'd say, you know, it's got that same fun factor at that same fun level for me as the bow build did, and complete opposite of the dragon build. The dragon build felt like an absolute, like, headache to play. Like, it's either I one-shot or get one-shotted. Ooh, super fun, whatever. This, though, quite the opposite. It's every time I'd land a hit of anything with it, I'm like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? And if you can get that oil pot on your opponent, oh man, it buffs your fire damage like crazy. And in invasions, this build, you know, you stack Flame Grant Me Strength, you stack one of the perfume bottles that ups your damage. You know, maybe if you're feeling real buff about it, you can even get the Commander Standard going. And you will be nearly one-shotting, if not one-shotting, with your little grenade lobs. With those Giant's Flame Pots, oh baby, absolute clap, napped, and snapped. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, just wild, insane. So yeah, this build, fun factor times 1,000. I'm gonna definitely have to try invasions with this build at some point, but I wanted to try duels because most of the examples I saw on YouTube, they were all more invasion-based builds with this. And there's some duels, but mainly when it came to consumables or consumable builds that I found, they were all invasions, and I wanted to give it a try in duels for myself. But yeah, the fun will definitely be in invasions too. So if you guys want to take this build out for invasions, I think you guys will have a good time. I think you guys will have fun. Also, I think this guy was memeing with me. Clearly, I was not paying attention to that at the time. I must have been tired while recording this because my mans was having fun. He was going to go take a little nappy nap. And I stopped him from having a nap, and now I feel bad. I feel bad. I was try-harding too much. That was a good throw, though. You know, try hard or not, that was a good throw. You got to be real. Oh, and that's another thing that you can do. When you throw, they have to react to it. They'll either roll in or roll out. If they roll out, start throwing these volcano pots like this. Control the battlefield, you know, put them in this scenario where they don't want to be. If they roll in, start swinging. If they get close enough for you to swing at them, if they get close enough for you to you know, slash them with your sword, start doing that. Oh, does he die from that? No. Oh, it was because of the regen. Yeah, he put on the regen armor. I remember now. I recorded this like a week or two ago. Super fun, though. Super fun. And I did some testing on the new patch, 1.07. Same damage. These fights would have gone probably the same way. In fact, you know, damage was kind of decreased across the board with some buffs for, like, speed to make the PvP more interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the patch notes, but it was absolutely nuts. That being said, yeah, These fights would have only have gone differently in a sense where they probably would have done less damage to me. I would have done more damage to them. Also, this is what I meant. Look at that damage with the oil pot. Oh, oh, mamma mia. I'm nutting. I just nutted. All right, that's it. You know what? I'll see you guys later. Have a good night. I gotta go clean myself up. Here's the build, though. Here are the stats. As you can see, it's a bit of a faith build. It's got some crazy damage. And right here, here's the equipment that I use, as well as the craftables and consumables. So take care, guys. Have a good night.
Subscribe to Big Buppo's YouTube. You must. Or tickle your toes. I will.